That's it. We're live.
All right, we are live. So we are done fighting technology for tonight. Good evening, Hypnosis Heroes. I am Brian, your host, pro tempore this evening with Captain Sean. Jim is out on assignment. He's being damn pretty in and doing things in places. So welcome to everybody who's in or who made it out tonight. With any luck, we are hoping to be broadcasting on all the other channels.
No, we should have YouTube and Facebook for sure.
And I am checking the live video, or we are not live on Facebook right now. And we are, let me refresh YouTube. We are not live on YouTube either.
According to this, we're live on YouTube. We've got one person on YouTube. It might be you.
Yeah, it's Scott King says, I see no video, but I'm reading that off of the YouTube chats. And
have them refresh their screen. That might be it. Because I think the event has changed, right?
I'm wondering if that won't go out for another few minutes. But for the people who are watching, we are all riding the struggle bus today.
Yeah, Jim just mentioned that if they're in YouTube, they're probably in the wrong event.
No, it's the one for August 26th.
Yeah, but is it the updated time? That's the piece. You know what? I can message Scott and tell him to grab. Tell him to grab the new event.
All right, so that's we're gonna go there. I'm gonna do the same thing. So I will go. I'm gonna exit out of this. Try to go to YouTube.
All right.
Well, Hypnotized. Okay, there we're on YouTube. Now we just need to get the Facebook thing going.
It would be the same thing. People would just have to refresh. And it's broadcasting on Jim's profile only.
Okay. Can you Oh no. All right.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody is all right. Nice. Scott, how are you doing? Okay, so
if Scott made it, everybody else will be here shortly.
If we are up on YouTube, we should see Becca pretty soon. Go to hold on. So is it on Jim's personal page?
Yep.
So which means I have to go
Here's
to that.
Becca.
Becca, welcome. Good to see you guys. So now I have to happening now.
I think we got it.
Yeah, we're just. It says it should be starting soon.
Nope, I got it right here.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool. So I'm going to shut. Okay, all right.
It says we're alive. Check your pulse. Just make sure.
Check my pulse, blood
live,
pressure.
That means everybody's coming. Here we go.
All right. So, okay. Ready, take two. Welcome, everybody, to Hypnosis Hero. So, Jim is out on assignment for those of you guys who were watching the other link. He's being damn pretty and doing things in places. So, it's just the captain and I tonight. We do have an amazing show. I'm super excited. I've been looking forward to this for probably a week and then some. Tonight, we're going to be talking about sex, or that's going to be part of the topic. So anybody who's under the age of 18, earmuffs, all that fun stuff. But Sean, how are things up in the Great White North?
Things are getting underway. We are back at the school division. I've been back for a week now. Our teachers were back starting today. So it'll be busy for the next couple of weeks, just based on the fact that people can't remember passwords. They don't use them for a couple of months, and the brain, I think, it just kind of leaks out the ear, and away it goes. So into the ether.
But
Um,
but but when you sneeze, you're keeping the brain lubricant inside the head, right?
well, they try to, yes. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always work. There are sometimes projectiles. So
Oh, very good. That's lit. Public schools are just little germ factories.
yeah, they'll be here after the long weekend. So after Labor Day, the students will start back in our area, and then it really is go time. So
Yeah, I think up here, Washington State, some school districts are starting back after this long weekend, um, which should be promptly followed by a teacher strike because there is not a teachers union in the history of the entire universe that goes on strike the day after school gets out for summer.
no, that's true. We were almost there
Mhm.
again, but that was a continuation of a year long walkout. We're going to binding arbitration, so we'll see what happens and what the arbitrator says. Probably just in time for me to make it down to Vegas for the Performing Hypnosis Summit.
Excellent. So, God, I mean, Monday we've already managed to break the internet, and the wheels have fallen off the wagon, and I'm laughing because I'm looking over at a text message from earlier that Jim says, "Hey, I can't make it tonight. I'm confident that you guys will handle it." And you said, "Oh, we'll be fine." And I said, "That's Canadian for may God help us all." And well, here we are.
Well,
So
good day, eh?
yeah. So I think it's time to bring our guest on.
I think so.
We we got the intro for him.
You got the intro? You're
I
frozen. There you go. No, you're not.
Yep. So I'm just intermittently going to be like, and just stop and pause, and people are going to hit the keyboard. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, grab your headphones, settle in, and prepare to have your minds expanded or even blown. See what I did there? Today we're diving headfirst into the world of relationships, inner strength, and a little something we like to call how not to screw things up. So, with a guy who's seen it all and lived to tell the tale, our guest today is Dr. Nicholas Natale, or as we affectionately like to call him, Dr. Nick. Because who doesn't love a doctor whose name sounds like he could double as your friendly neighborhood superhero? This man is a licensed professional counselor. He's a certified sex therapist and certified hypnotherapist. And by the end of this episode, probably your new best friend. Dr. Nick has more degrees than the thermometer and a skill set that could make even the most stubborn relationship issues say, okay, fine, I'll change. Whether you're dealing with marital meltdowns, intimacy issues, or just trying to figure out how to be a better human, Dr. Nick is here to help. He's like a relationship mechanic, only instead of fixing your old clunker of a car, he's here to tune up your love life, tighten up those loose emotional screws, and maybe install a turbo boost of confidence where you least expect it. And the best part, he does it all with a sense of humor and a down-to-earth wisdom that makes you wonder why you did not reach out to him sooner. Broadcasting from his practice in Columbia, South Carolina, right next door to where I did basic training a lifetime ago, to the hearts and minds around the world, Dr. Nick is here to help you embrace your inner strength, restore those missing pieces of yourself, and let's be real, help you become the confident lover you always knew that you could be. So buckle up, folks. It's going to be insightful, funny, and maybe just a little bit awkward ride as we welcome the one and only Dr. Nick to the show, Dr. Nick Natale.
Hey, thank you for letting me come and be a part of this. I didn't realize that when I said yes to this, I'll be, put with two like hypno gods that everybody keeps talking about. And so,
Oh, Jim lied to you.
Brian, I really do appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys tonight. That's for sure.
The pleasure is going to be everyone's this evening, and the dad jokes are just going to keep coming.
Oh, let those puns
See what I did
fly,
there
man.
too.
We don't have a good session unless there's some puns in here. If we're not having fun, we're not doing it right. That's just the way we begin and end every single session. So there you go.
So just like the kind of aviation enthusiast that I aspire to be, I've got notes, a checklist,
Oh,
if you will. And we're gonna hope that we've already had the bumps and bruises and everything of chitty chitty bang banging our way down across the internet. So no, we've got some great people. Actually, I need to go scroll back through some of our comments. So we need to say a hi. One to Scott King, all the way from Texas.
Scott, how you doing, man?
Becca is joining us from the east side of the United Kingdom.
Hey, Becca.
Let's see. Shane, you got to let us know where you're from. Refresh my memory. And we've got some other people as well. So Jim, I think, is tuning in somewhere from the depths of traffic purgatory. We're just going to have him. We're going to kick him out of here when we get to the hypnosis part, because it's not good to be hypnotized and drive. Just ask anybody who drives in the rainy season in Washington for the first time after a long dry summer.
Oh, you should try driving in Saskatchewan. We're called the Gap because they apparently think it's flat. And in reality, it's not. There's like a 6-foot difference between the top and the bottom of Saskatchewan.
Oh, no, that is amazing. So that means I could stand up on my tippy toes and be like, all right, I can see the other side.
On the other side of the province, yes.
So awesome. So we're going to just jump right into this. So Dr. Nick, that's what I'm going to refer to you as, because it's simple for me. I hope forgive me. I got the last name correct, even with the little Italian accent.
Absolutely, Natali. Let's say with a little bit of flair, and you're doing it right. So
awesome.
No worries here. With a name like that, I've been called so many different things throughout my entire life. You cannot butcher that name enough that I hadn't already heard. So
I was going to say the last thing I wanted to be is like Dr. Natalie, and I'm like, no.
Exactly, right? So, that's easy. That's too easy.
So throw an accent on it and compensate with false bravado, and you'll be fine.
Oh, see, you're a genius. I knew it, my friend.
It's like my dating life, but or has been. So anyway,
I'm not saying anything, Brian, because that's just way too easy to pick at.
What happened in Vegas? We don't speak of that. Alcohol may have been involved, and my probation officer may be watching. So, hi, Mom. So yeah, kind of jumping right in. So Nick, kind of give me the summary of your background. Where does Dr. Nick come from? How did you grow up, and kind of how did we get to where we're at now?
Man, that's a long story, and I'm happy to share bits and pieces of it. It's kind of just relevant for everybody. But I have always been on two paths, and that has been caring for people,
right,
and looking to help people grow. And I just remember doing this even as a kid. I was one of the kids in the back of the class who had dyslexia, couldn't really always understand exactly where everybody was going, couldn't follow the teacher, slow reader, even to this day. But I knew that caring for people made a difference in people's lives. And so I've done that in so many different ways, from the time I can remember in school and then university, going into the ministry, the Christian ministry for a long time, private practice as a counselor. My life has been about helping people heal, recover, and more importantly, transform. And so that's just what my life has always been about. Mm-hmm. And so I've been a therapist, a licensed therapist, since 2000. So that's 24 years that I've been practicing within the church, worked in non-governmental organizations, NGOs, working around the world, doing disaster relief work from 2004 to in the tsunami that hit Indonesia. Mm-hmm. And I began serving and helping people through faith-based ministries, providing mental health care there. That took me around the world for years.
Oh wow! So your passport probably has its fair share of stamp collection.
Man, I got several passports, that's for sure, and they're they don't use stamps anymore. That really bugs me. Now it's all facial recognition stuff when you go through the airports nowadays.
You're like, can I just have a printout of all the dates and times that this has been electronically stamped so I can show off?
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that anymore. But a rugged passport is something that I think everybody needs. They need that thing messed up, torn up, and spilled, dropped in the river, rained on, soaked. You need all that stuff for a good life, that's for sure. You got lots of stories there.
So,
But
so kind of circling back, non-gens hockey style. You touched on you've been a therapist. Is that like the licensed mental health? You need a certain degree to that, or is it just you've been kind of the go-to person who's been the wise elder through the church?
No, really, during graduate school, is 3 years of doing counseling, psychology, graduate degree, and master's.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what most states require.
Right.
I'm actually licensed in Washington State as well, because I was actually living in Washington for a period of years as well.
Oh, I got to ask you, what part?
Yakima, on the east side, the dry side, the sunny side of Washington.
where various parts of the military go to shoot tanks.
Yes, they do, all night long, apparently. And so I was out there for 3 years. Wonderful part of my life out there. But I've been a mental health counselor out there.
There's a funny story that involves C4 and the local seismic activity and military police from I was on a training mission out there that was just a boondoggle.
Yeah, we don't talk about that stuff.
And a lot of questions. So,
yeah.
Well, I've had my fair share of run-ins with the military. Where I grew up, my house was halfway kind of on a hill, and across the river were two fields, farmers' fields, and we went to bed. This was just after Red Dawn had first come out. So we go to bed, we wake up the next morning, and there's tanks and vehicles and jeeps and you name it all over the place. Their helicopters are landing in the fields, and we're thinking, okay, are they Russian?
And speaking of Red Dawn, I mean, how inconceivable is that? Like, who is going to use bright red parachutes to come out of the sky? I mean, at least white, you'll blend in with the clouds or something, but...
Well, they didn't invade Canada. They invaded the States. So do I care?
Sean's like, they're flying part of our 50% of our colors. Wait. These parachutes have maple leaves on them. They're fine. They're the friendlies.
They're fine.
No, we did.
Everybody thinks we're the nice ones in the relationship. We're not the nice ones. We know that, to your face will be nice because there's a good chance you're armed, but
yeah,
but we're not necessarily the nice ones.
Yeah, we had every year First Special Forces Group does kind of a joint get together celebration in December with Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, and those guys can drink. we went to one establishment.
They're from Saskatchewan.
We went to one establishment and the bartender was like, "You can't have any more." And they're like, "What do you mean? We haven't done anything wrong. We've behaved ourselves. We might have been a little loud." And they're like, no, you don't understand. Like, we don't have any more. the kegs are gone.
Yeah.
So, no, definitely good times.
They're actually from Regina, about 2 hours down the road.
Mm-hmm. Great group of guys, super friendly, and just some hard charging dudes. So, but yeah. So now that we've had our little ADD,
I see how it goes here.
Yeah, I mean, it's what could possibly go wrong.
Well, one thing you
were talking about
as a therapist, I'm very comfortable with silence, and so I'll just kind of sit here and let you guys talk. I mean, yeah.
No, you don't want to do that because
I was going to say we're going to end up on conspiracy theories. I'm going to put a foil hat on and. I'm going to get sued like Alex Jones, but, yeah, but so you were talking about the working with some disaster relief areas. And then how did you shift into the relationship and the sex therapy and as taboo as it is, you're probably not telling people to be like, all right, you got to go do some yoga and work on your flexibility and stuff. But I would imagine that there's part of focusing on intimacy. And if you can kind of share with us what's the best way to describe what you do?
I think it's a great question, and it's one of the things I get most often. Exactly what this is. I even had my own son ask me one time, "Do you touch people? Do you have sex with people?" No, 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 no. I do not have
Check
sex
his
with people.
browser history.
No, every piece of electronic in my house has to be destroyed at my untimely death. That's for sure. Put it in the microwave right away. Don't open it up, please.
It's okay. It's these
Research.
subscriptions are a business
Research.
write-off. It's research.
Most people who come to see me, they're looking for help in intimacy because, listen, we can joke about it, we can have fun with it all day long, but intimacy and sex is such a vital part. It's an essential aspect of who we are as people. It actually is about everything that we do. Oscar Wilde is noted for saying everything is about sex, except for sex. Sex is about power. It's about personal agency. And that is true. And so one of the things that I just found very quickly is, number one, in my region here in South Carolina, we're in the conservative South. There's not a lot of people who's willing to talk about sex. And that's something I've always been very comfortable to do. And it's a vital part of who we are. And so I encourage people, let's just recognize that every single one of us has a public life we share with everybody, a secret life we may share with few people. And there's a private life we may share with a few people. And then there's a secret life that we may not share with anyone. And we're going to, in the course of our work, we're going to be in all three domains of a person's existence. So sometimes I like to describe it as, this is something that everyone experiences, but very few people talk about. And to tell you the truth, when it comes to men, which is the primary people I work with men and then with couples, I do help women, but my demographic is about a good 60% men, and then there's couples, and then there's individual women I work with as well. But for men, we don't know how to talk about these things, and so men will suffer in silence for a very, very long time, and they don't know how. So I honestly create a fun, masculine space where you can come and share whatever you need to share. And there is no embarrassment. There is no shame. There is no imposed belief about what you ought to be doing. And when I created that space and then began to provide people with something that is systematic and literally changes people's lives in a way that they want, it's just simply, it blows our minds, literally blows our minds. It's kind of like, we can talk about this? Absolutely.
And this is probably a horrible time for me to say this is how Jim and I met, but and I say that, tongue in cheek and play on words, but I remember a number of years back, this is how long I've known Jim, who went through, a very difficult breakup with a long-term relationship. And I'm like, okay, I've got kids. I've got to, take care of a house that I've got to keep a roof over it. I need a help. And so you go to the VA and they're like, okay, here's a bunch of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. And here is all the Adderall your body can handle. And then you go to the doc and you go, look, I've got side effects. And they're like, well, how's your depression? Doc, I don't think you understand. These side effects are adding and significantly contributing
to my depression.
And so it's like, okay, how do you, and kind of being a veteran, you've got to have that dark humor and go, this is absolutely stupid. Just like when you talked about, hey, where I live in South Carolina, sex is not something that we really openly talk about. And then I kind of chuckle from my time being stationed out there briefly. And I'm like, you've got the University of South Carolina, their mascot is the Gamecocks, and so everybody's got go Cocks on their shirt and hats and
on
everything.
Their ass.
And I'm like, yeah, exactly. And I'm just kind of like, well, this is interesting when I get off the airport and I see all that collegiate wear. But yeah, I mean, it is as silly as we try. It is, as much as I'm cracking jokes and everything. Like, this is definitely a serious issue that affects a lot of people.
It most certainly do. Men, women, and couples. When we look at individuals who are in a relationship, or even as an individual, and their sex life is satisfying to them, they score higher on almost every domain of life. It has this butterfly effect that ripples everywhere. And we see the reverse as well. When things are not right in the bedroom, if you will, it affects everything else. It affects how they perform at work. It affects how they perform with their spouse, how they relate to the opposite sex or the same sex. It affects everything that they're involved in. And so so I've been doing sex therapy since 2016 as a certified sex therapist through ACET. It's an international association for educators and counselors and therapists in the area of sex work. And the reality of it is there are just so few of us, and especially so few men, who are saying, let's do this, let's talk about this. Most of the people that I interact with as a therapist are feminine. And as a sex therapist, it's even more so. So when I go to the conference for ACET, it may be, in a hotel, say in Philadelphia, over 3 or 4 floors of meeting space. All the male bathrooms are taken up, and we get one single bathroom all the way back down, because when it comes to how many people are attending who actually own penises, it's like, maybe 10% of the population. And so it's just a very interesting dynamic for us as men to be in this space. But I have found this work to be extremely rewarding. There is nothing more satisfying than help a guy be able to say, let me become the confident lover I've always wanted to be. And there's not something wrong with me just because I want sex or I think about sex. Because there's a lot of shame, a lot of guilt wrapped up in a man's sex life today. And part of that is because of culture, because of all a variety of different things I could talk about all night long.
How much of men that you work with come to you and they say, whatever I'm lacking, whether there's a physical ailment, whether there's a mental challenge, or even a medical one that you're trying to work through, what would you say the percentage of them go, I feel like I'm losing a part of my identity?
No. Every single one of them. There's an essential book that was released last year.
Actually, I'm going to be completely rude and I'm going to interrupt you. And kind of second on that, when you hear them say or convey that, out of those people, how many of them do you actually physically see, like in their eyes, there's a part of them that is dying inside?
Every single one. Every single one. People don't understand. There's a great book that came out last year. It was released. It's called The Existential Importance of the Penis. And this was a psychologist who wrote on a phenomenal piece of work that indicates just to what degree the penis plays in men's self-identity and emotional regulation. So he even starts out the book, Brian, you're a veteran, and I thank you for your service. But
you pay the bill every April. Thank you.
Yeah, there. Be happy to. Mm-hmm. In his book, he begins the book looking at veterans who have been injured in combat. The suicidal rate for veterans who've been in combat are through the roof. But veterans who've been in combat and have been injured in combat in the genitalia area,
I've actually got something for that. So
time 10. Is time 10. It affects performance, affects identity. Men regulate so much of their emotions through intimacy, physical touch, the penis. And it's something that nobody talks about. Nobody talks about this stuff.
So
And
kind
that's
kind of on that note, have you done any research or had any of your patients go get blood work done to measure testosterone, PSAs, things
yeah,
like that?
every single day. That's what we're talking about.
So that's one of the things that, you know, especially coming from the special operations community, um, you know, quick background, I was a support guy, and the special forces mission is to go train host nation, you know, resistance forces. So what do? They take the support guys in practice. So when they go, hey, who wants to play with the spicy Play-Doh and the danger putty and whatnot, we're playing musical. No, can we put Nick on the big?
Chikai, chikai. I said
Okay.
manually.
Uh,
Tic tac toe.
yeah, I'm like, okay, musical squares. Um, yeah. So what we're finding is, like, when we're doing breaching training, it's there, you eat an explosion and the shock wave goes right through you. When you've got your op tempo with training, hey, I'm running 5 to 10 miles a day, and then I'm doing 2 hours in the pool, and everything is so high stress as far as, you know, physical and mental, just because of the exertion, your adrenal glands are just pumping. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, military service is over. I'm going to go out and fly a desk. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm gaining weight. My energy has plummeted. My brain fog, every little thing. And I was watching a video from, you know, Marine Raider who was describing all this stuff. And I was Ron White naked on a beanbag eating Cheetos, like leaning forward going, I've got every single one of those. And you know, again, big pharma is out there. A pill is going to fix everything. And all it does is, yeah, it fixes one problem, creates 5 more. And then you've got a lot of veterans. And here's kind of my hypothesis. I won't say it's a theory because I have no evidence to back it up other than my own, but you go try to get help. The VA in their system, they go, okay, here's all this bureaucratic red tape. And then guys go, I got a family to feed, a job to keep, because I like clean underwear and a roof over my head. And they go, okay, I'm just going to suffer in silence, like you said. It's not mental health or anything like that. It's, I would say, the 22 service members that we lose a day to self unsubscribing is probably just trying to get basic healthcare, and the red tape comes in. So here's somebody like you that goes, if I can save my marriage, that means I'm not hemorrhaging money for a divorce attorney. I'm not fighting a custody battle. I'm not wanting to go play in traffic. You're giving children both parents in the home. And I mean, I'm going to go so far as to say, like, take the church and stuff out of this. You're doing the Lord's work, man.
Well, I do believe that identity as a man is something that has to be able to be shaped and formed over a period of life.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty of research around how does a person, especially a man, kind of sees himself at different stages in life. And if he does not progress well,
Mm-hmm.
he will look at his life and be dissatisfied. Like I'm telling you, that was my 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock appointment this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
It is a fascinating reality. Now, when it comes to sex life for these
Mm-hmm.
individuals, because I do this mirror of work and just letting people know, we're not talking about just how to get it up and get going, but we're actually talking about how do you embody being who you are, because this is a foundational thing that we have to understand. Where our mind goes, our body is going to follow.
Right.
So if our mind is on, I don't know if I can, I don't know if it's going to work, I don't know if it's the same thing's going to happen last time, I don't know how she sees me, I don't even know how I see myself.
Mm-hmm.
All that internalization of messages is going to affect how you actually become aroused and how you're going to perform. And so what a lot of men just don't quite realize is that one of the primary work that we do is that we have to debunk all the myths that they have been just internalizing since day one of watching TV, that it's supposed to look like this and they're supposed to, be super ready to go the moment that the action is about to begin. And it is so powerful and relieving for them to learn one truth, that in any sexual encounter, your penis is designed to form an erection, lose an erection, form an erection multiple times. That one simple truth is the opposite of everything they've ever seen, heard, or read about on any show, locker room, or porn, or whatever they're involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big part of what I do is just saying, dude, I don't know. Let's talk about where that has come from. We call your beliefs about sex your sexual scripts, the scripts that you're operating off of that inform and influence the way that you're relating on this topic. You're working with old data, myth data. It just isn't right. I tell people, dude, relax. We're going to see what can happen. And this is where hypnosis comes in, because I use hypnosis almost with every single client. Now, I do say almost with every single client. I am a therapist, and I have been for 24 years. But I've only began to learn about hypnosis and its power since 21. And so 2022, the last year in New Orleans was the last year in New Orleans for HTL was my first year, coming to the conference. And by the way, I am seriously looking forward to what's going to happen in February for the Performing Summit. What's it called? Performing Hypnotic Performance?
Yeah, January.
I'll say late January.
Yeah,
late January.
The Performing Hypnosis Summit.
Performing Hypnosis Summit.
I think I even have an announcement about that.
Please, I need to hear it, because so this is all new to me, and so I don't pretend like master here. By no means. I am the perpetual learner. I'm going through and just kind of learning as much as I can from whoever I can. It's going to be an amazing thing.
Well, you kind of bring up a lot of stuff, and I'll try to draw a parallel and relate from my experience, and this is more on the professional side. So I'm a reformed family law paralegal, and I've dealt with, if I never deal with another divorce or child custody battle or see the inside of a courtroom, I'll die a happy man. But basically, after the client signs with the attorney, they come down and sit with me, and they would go, my job was to be like, all right, tell me your story. Where did you guys meet? How did you guys meet? All that stuff. Tell me about the relationship, and then how did it all fall apart and go to hell to get us to where we're at. And it breaks down to the most common things were the various types of intimacy. So if things weren't going well in the bedroom, if there were financial issues and communication issues, and any one of those three are going to topple everything else.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, once one of those things breaks down, it's the cancer that feeds on the entire relationship. And as it feeds, it just breeds resentment. Mm-hmm. And the communication no longer becomes, there's an issue, how do we work together to solve it? It becomes a debate. And the only way that you can win the debate is to run the other person into the ground and take away all of their arguments and basically get them to concede that I suck. And you're sitting there.
Who in the world wants to now be with a defeated wife or a defeated husband?
And when
you won, but what did you win?
When the male part of the relationship is just beaten down and is like, all right, fine, I'll tell you whatever you want just so you'll shut up and I can have some peace and go play my video game, or just try to claw that one little piece of happiness that I can cling to life like a life raft in an ocean of bullshit. It's okay, as a woman, how do you respect that? And when you don't respect that, you don't appreciate it. And then you just start finding more, and you're picking and picking and picking, and then you don't respect yourself because you don't like how you're acting, and you're all cranky because bedroom stuff isn't happening. The insults go back and forth, and Oh, great. You're a child of this relationship. You can't be emancipated. You've got two pissed off people who are just miserable in their lives, who are responsible for all the decision making going on in your place. Guess what? You get to suffer in silence and just pray for adoption and hope that you can survive that part of the system. And it's, and I've sat with both men and women who are just absolutely broken people. And
Yeah.
to quote my late father, I remember my parents went through a nasty custody battle. And I remember my dad saying, all right, with work, I had to go shift in we split the time as close to 50-50 as possible, but my dad ended up paying child support to my mom. He's like, all right, I'm going to pay it a month in advance. And he could have been, okay, I'm just pulling around numbers to illustrate. If he was ordered to pay $500 a month and he said, all right, I'll make it $1,000, it's, well, why couldn't it be $1,500? All right, I'll give you $1,500. Well, why can't it be $2,000? There was never going to be anything enough. And I remember him telling me one day as I was going through my own divorce, and he goes, son, if your mom had just told me one time, you know what, Chuck, I really appreciate that you're consistent with the child support payment and everything. It makes my life a lot easier. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate that. He goes, I probably would have doubled it. And for women out there, I don't think you guys truly understand the power of just a simple, stupid compliment or doing something to make your partner's life easier. Men will walk on broken glass, bloody stumps to get that little bit. And then men, you guys also have a responsibility to make your partner feel safe, both physically, emotionally, all that type of stuff. And Dr. Nick, tell me if I'm completely out of left field, or am I even in the same time zone as that?
No, I understand what you're completely saying. I believe
Mhm.
from your perspective that is absolutely needs to be the focus. We know that within the complexities of what takes place in a relationship, what is one person's story, and how that just rings so true to them. There is another story that is going to be a different perspective. And one of the things that we do is, as therapists, is be able to sit in that couple space and to be able to actually hear and communicate that what is being said from the various perspectives is completely heard.
And,
So
and, and,
what?
and real quick, in all fairness, I am not running my mother into the ground. As an adult, I have the ability to differentiate that both people had their own perspectives. Both of my parents were trying to do what they thought was right. And, I'm not trying to paint a picture that, oh, we lived in poverty. I didn't have to fear where my next meal was coming from or anything like that. And I tried to live as much of a normal life as possible. But definitely in the late 80s and early 90s, I was certainly in the minority of living in a split household. But, in case my mom watches this, I don't want her to think that I'm making her out to be this horrific person by any stretch of the means.
Right.
I think that's only fair.
Of course, it's a very complicated thing, and that's the difficulties oftentimes of trying to navigate this and to provide a space where
Mhm.
everyone's voice can be heard and to be able to kind of work through. So now what does this mean for us? How do we see it beyond the details, beyond the emotions? So there's an illustration I sometimes will use. I'll just pick up a book
Mhm.
out of my office and I'll say, when you were in what we call in the States high school, the
Right.
teacher was saying, I want you to read this story or this book, and I want you to tell me how it makes you feel.
Actually, real quick, for the people that are international, high school is going to be grades 9 through 12
Yeah, 14 through 18, yeah, 15 through 18.
age. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. But when you are in literature classes at university, The professor is going to sit here and say, I understand that you explored this topic from the perspective of how to make you feel, but I want you to actually listen to what the author is trying to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, what we have to do as in this space is make sure we can help each person understand what the other one is attempting to say, not just to hear it through our own lens and our own emotions. And so that is a complicated thing. I cut my teeth in therapy doing relationship work. It's still one of my favorite things to do. It's complex work and it's not easy.
I
Providing
could
that space for a couple to come in and be in, that's a real special place to be.
on that book. Imagine if book reports, the stuff that we loathed as a child, or maybe it was just me, um, from from an educational standpoint, you have somebody read the book, they write the book report. Here's kind of the summary. Here's what I took away from it, and then you contrast and compare. You actually have the author write the same thing of this is the message that I tried to convey, and find out who actually picked up on some of the subtleties,
Yeah.
and kind of train people or show them how to look for kind of those in between. And I think there's an aspect of picking up on social skills that way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. I think that's what a good teacher will always try to do for sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So,
Yep.
yeah.
And now we're using AI, so even William Shakespeare can answer the question, "What were you trying to say?"
Yeah,
Nobody
he
knows.
most certainly
Nobody
can.
knows what odds bodkin is anymore.
Right.
Anybody
Mm,
who knows Hamlet knows it's a dagger, right? So
yeah.
Hmm.
anyway,
But yeah, you were kind of expanding on some of the other issues that you run into with couples, or even just
Oftentimes
relationships.
when I'm working with guys or working with women, there's just three different things that we usually kind of see. I don't feel heard. I don't feel like I'm heard and understood. And by the way, that is the most basic of every one of us and our emotional needs. Every single one of us wants to feel heard and understood.
and
So
and
we're
if
having
you
a conversation.
and if you can't feel heard, it hurts.
Absolutely. When we don't feel like we're given space to be able to hear and to be heard and to really understand what we're trying to say, it's hard to build on the other emotional needs that we have.
Hmm.
Another key thing that we end up talking about is the differences when it comes to intimacy. There are just so many distinct ways that we will feel intimate. Like for guys, I'm going to speak on the bell curve. If you remember the bell curve, what I'm about to say is going to apply to most people to various degrees. Some like dead on, others are not, and some it's not going to apply to at all. But for most guys, they're going to feel somewhat emotionally connected with a person when touch is involved.
You're talking
Most
physical touch.
I am physical touch.
Now, is that
Um,
them touching somebody else, or is their partner or
both,
their interest touching them? Okay.
both.
All
Yep,
right.
going both ways. For most women, it is actually being heard, emotionally heard. Not every single woman out there is emotive, but far majority of them are, and they're going to actually respond. Not just do you understand what I said by hearing the words, but do you actually emotionally understand what I'm trying to say here, what I'm experiencing here? And that's a very difficult thing to do. But without those two things, it's going to be hard to build an intimacy that needs to be there. And so,
And I mean, 2024, we're 2/3 of the way through it. I mean, guys are just now cracking the code on telling a woman, "Hey, guess guess where I'm taking you for dinner tonight." Dude has no idea where he wants to go. He has no idea where she wants to go, and she goes, "You're taking me to insert restaurant here?" Question mark. And he goes, "That's where she wants to go." And then he replies with, "Yes." And his lady goes, "Oh, my man is an absolute wizard."
hopefully, we're going to get into that and being able to express exactly what they're thinking and what they're wanting as part of it. Because we as men operate on something that's called a covert contract, where we will think that we're trying to trick our spouse into, getting what we want. When they don't actually provide what we want, we'll hold it against them in some way or another. Like, you're supposed to read my mind or something like that. So we'll take them out to dinner. We'll give them a great time at the bar afterwards. We'll take them to the club. We'll spend some time dancing. At the
Mhm.
end of the night, did you have fun? Oh, I had a great time. I'm looking forward to us being together tonight. I'm tired. Well,
Or if
maybe we should.
or take it as like a first date. Hey, I had a really good time with you, blah blah
No,
blah, and then it's like, oh, that's awesome. I'd really like to see you again. Yeah, me too. All right, cool. You know,
Brian, that
few
wasn't my
days.
point. That
Oh,
wasn't
I
my
was gonna
point
say,
at all.
few days go by, and all of a sudden it's like, I don't think it's working out, and you're like, but you said this doesn't make sense. But
No, that wasn't my point at all. My point was that oftentimes men need to be able to express exactly what they're thinking, what they're expecting, instead of holding that in as some type of covert contract. A
mhm.
contract, if I do this for you, then you'll do that for me. And that's what a lot of people end up doing. Yeah.
And women a lot of times will feel their guard is up because they're like, yeah, I want to go out and have a good time, but I don't, I feel pressured and obligated, and women generally don't want to disappoint somebody. And it's like,
Hmm.
well, if I can kind of dodge, and then you run into a case kind of down the road where women are like, where are all the good men at? And it's like, well, you got to get out of your own damn way. And guys are pretty simple. It's like, even the neurodivergent ones, it's like, if you tell us exactly what you want, like, we'll do it. Give us a blueprint. We build buildings and skyscrapers and automobiles based on like a spec sheet. Give us the combination and we'll
Didn't
do
we
it.
talk about that at the beginning, like off the top, that the instructions are for kneeling on? We put it together just because we see it in our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you got a pretty good, if something goes together, you can just take the instructions and round file it.
That's what we do with all the IKEA furniture instructions. We have some
Re-
weird things here.
refer to it later if all else fails, and you can't hit it with a hammer to you know and a relationship is definitely not something that you can. We highly discourage percussive maintenance because that ends up in
What
a
does
lot.
that mean?
Oh, just hitting it harder.
Oh,
you can't give it the old Fonzarelli fix
no,
and smack the
no,
jukebox, because
no,
that'll
no,
get
no,
you
no.
thrown out of your home.
But I
But
really do appreciate what you're saying, Brian, because in reality, most guys are trying to communicate in the form of solutions. We communicate with, what can I do for you? How can I fix this? What can I provide for you? When
it's
oftentimes that is not what is actually needed in the moment. What's needed in the moment is to actually allow a person to speak and to listen so that they can feel that being heard and understood. And for a woman, that means on an emotional level as well. And so that means that we're not trying to fix something, repair something that's broken. We just want to be heard. And that takes a lot of effort, intention and effort on the guy's part to sit here and say, we're going to spend a few moments today. I just want to hear what's going on in your life.
and sometimes you just have to go let a woman rah, 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 whatever it is that's on her mind that she's upset about. And if you just look there with, don't let your eyes glaze over. And if you say with some element of sincerity, oh man, that sucks. Or, God, that had to be really difficult. I could see how that pissed you off. All of a sudden their face lights up and it's like, I know, right? And you're just like, or you just repeat the last couple things that you heard them start out to say. And
Well, I think sometimes that's a great beginning point, but what we actually need to be able to do is actually begin to learn to tune into what is actually being said so that we can actually allow that connection to be there. Uh, it is
I'm
a very
sensing that
intuitive.
you're answering Scott's question right now. That he's
Oh,
asking, yep.
I don't know what Scott's asking here. I
Oh, it's a
can't
great
quite see
question.
it.
Yeah, I think Scott was reading your mind because he's that talented, or he's got Chat GPT like plugged into your system and everything. But he says, "Do you have any tips for how men can help their partner feel understood and heard?"
Yeah. Well, you're exactly right, Brian, because what we're trying to do now is actually spend the intentional time and energy listening. And we have to set aside the part of ourselves that really wants to just fix it. We are solution-based thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in reality, what we're trying to do with empathy is listen to be able to kind of understood, to help them feel understood. Now, to feel understood is, you can begin by, as you were saying, repeat to them what they're saying. I hear that you're having a hard day today. That sounds shitty.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more. There's no telling how far you can go in the depths of feeling connected with a person by using that simple phrase, tell me more. It
On
tells
that
me
note, guys, be
more.
careful on how hard you pull that string because she may take you down to a rabbit hole.
Yes, but I'm saying that's exactly what is in need
Mm-hmm.
of, is to be able to have that time to be able to do that. And you're right. When we first start doing that,
Mm-hmm.
that may feel like, where's this going to go? Because you're in this tension of, I
Mm-hmm.
need to fix, I need to repair, I need to make this right. If I can
I'll be
say
the first
anything,
person. I'll be the first person to admit if a woman's like, "Oh, I'm complain, complain, complain." I've got like all the geometric figures, and I'm like Zach Galifianakis in that
no,
movie where he's trying to count cards, and then I turn
no,
into Ace Ventura, where I am
no,
trying to
no,
contain
no, no, no,
myself.
no, no.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
no,
oh god, it is so hard just as
yeah.
a guy to be like, I love you, I care enough about you, even to my friends that I'm like, I want to solve the problem. It is
Yeah.
right there.
I'll put it this way to guys. Listen, I know you have a solution here, but what she is looking for from you is encouragement and support,
And to
not a
shut the
solution.
hell up and listen.
Just listen.
Mhm.
That's all that is needed in order for that connection to build.
And Scott
That's
brings
it.
up a great strategy that I have found myself employing. He says, kind of right off the bat, it's okay to pause them and go, hey, like, which hat do I need to put on? Do I need to put the listening hat on, or do we need to go sort something out? And is this a listening conversation, or is this we need to get the bigger hammer
Yeah.
conversation?
I do believe it needs to be listening first and let that always be the most dominant
Mm-hmm.
primary tool that we use. And then I ask, hey, would you like any input on this? And that maybe or maybe not, from her perspective. And of course, it will take time for this type of rhythm to take place within a relationship. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, and we'll go ahead and talk about this right now, if there's going to be any relationship change within a couple, we're going to go through um, three different resistances to that change, three
Mm-hmm.
different barriers. You're going to be suspicious of the other person when they start changing. It's going to feel awkward as fuck when you start changing something in a relationship. And fairness can become an issue. Now, I'm saying those three things: suspicion, awkwardness, and fairness are your three major barriers to relationship change.
Now, suspicion, you brought that up. Is that like, why is he or she being so nice to me? What are they trying to
Exactly.
cover up? And
Exactly.
that could be
Exactly.
stemming from your own previous
No,
negative
no, 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 no.
experience.
He comes in, he goes straight to you. He has never done this. He comes straight to you. He comes straight to you and says, I miss you so much today. And I cannot wait to spend some time with you. How are the kids? Is there anything I need to know about? That's his first thing he does. She's like, what? Who are you?
Yeah.
What have you done? That
Mhm.
suspicion can undermine the entire thing.
Hi, I'm
And
supposed to be your spouse. Have we met?
yeah, and all these things are awkward. So I'm telling the guy, I said, hey man, when you first walk in the door, go straight to her. Say hello to the kids, of course, but go to her. Check
Mhm.
in, see how she's doing. Do that first. And it may be awkward. It may be awkward for you to do
Mhm.
that. But anyway, those three barriers of change, that's always present.
Have you ever had a guy come to you and say, "Hey, my wife, girlfriend, fiance, whatever is applicable. When she's just really on one and she's just pointing out something that I screwed up. It's a legitimate complaint. I forgot to do something. I didn't call her
Mhm.
back when I said I would, and it's something that they genuinely feel bad about. And instead of just mentioning it, it's like they're pissed, and it's like, all right, I am I as the man am internally just beating myself up more than anybody could. But then you add that fuel that's on the fire. You're pouring salt in the wounds from the person that you care about,
Mhm.
and it's just like after a hard day of just fighting the world, I've got to come home and there's more attacks. And I remember a friend of mine who will remain nameless. I was having a conversation with his wife, and I was like, he is out doing things with the scum of the earth every day. And when he needs to come home, if there's something that's going on, I was like, tell me what's the problem. And it was something arbitrary, like wet towel and dirty clothes on the floor in the bathroom. And she goes, I work really hard to have a nice home to come home to, etc., etc. And it just adds to my stress. And I was like, if you will sit him down and be like, look, go get out of your work clothes and give me 5 minutes, I'll be upstairs. And I'm like, and just super calm, go, it is important. These are the things that are important to me. Having a clean home. It's important that you have a clean home because I know what you do. I want you to be not have to worry about what's going on. And it adds, when these things happen, it adds this stress. And I'm like, if he doesn't sit there and be like, oh my God, I had no idea. Give him a couple seconds to kind of process. You don't have to nag him and go, "Oh, I'm generally really, really sorry." What you do is you preserve the integrity of the relationship. You brought a problem up or an issue. You spoke respectfully to one another, which then builds trust. You preserve his dignity as a man. And you go, hey, it's important that I tell you about this so that we together can do something about it. Because I don't want to blow up on you when you get home. I'm excited because I miss you during the day. What are your thoughts on that?
I can understand exactly how we would want that to be modeled and we want that to be developed over time. And that's not an easy thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we want to teach both individuals in any type of relationship is the ability to take the other one into consideration. And so, yeah, they're both are going to sometimes do that very well, and sometimes are not going to do that very well at all. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's going to be times for sure when it is going to be kind of a rough thing to hear about all this. And so, yeah, I think that we have to learn as individuals how to be as empathetic and resilient as possible. And sometimes our spouse is going to do this well, our significant other is going to do it well, and sometimes are not.
Mm-hmm.
And timing is everything, of course. But yeah, it's just kind of how I see it. But I
But I
like
mean,
that, Brian.
also for the ladies who are who are listening, and whether it's now or after we're done with the show, what are your preferred? How would you prefer to have something be brought to your attention? And
Are you
if
asking
you,
me or them?
our audience members,
Mm-hmm.
the women out there, if you brought something respectfully to a partner, and then at the end of it, and this is for the guys, if you told them like, hey, I really appreciate you not just busting my balls and ripping me a new one about this, and just coming to me maturely. Like, that really means a lot. And I'm super proud. This wasn't easy for you, I can imagine. And I'm super proud of you for being able to do that. And I love you that much for that. Ladies, how far does that go? Like, how much does that mean to you? Is that a super green flag, or are you guys just going to gloss over that as us trying to, get you into the bedroom? But what are the I would say the 3 or 5 most common things that you see relationships struggle with? And I would say probably a few from the guy's side and a few from the women's side, because I'm assuming you work with both.
I do. I do. I think these things are shared, right? So, because when we think about healing, whether it's sexual healing, relationship healing, it's a collaborative work between the two.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you have observed in your previous paralegal life that, it is around intimacy, it is around conflict, around communication. It is about changes and stresses that are up and a part of this kind of everyday life. These are very common things that I believe that every single couple can benefit from by going and seeing somebody and just talking, sharpening up the skills.
Mm-hmm.
This is always going to be a growing process for every single person in a relationship. And we're always learning new things about ourselves, and we're
Mm-hmm.
learning new things about the other person.
Right.
It's easy to begin operating off of old data for sure. But the most common things I have, coming to see me at the work that I do as a sex therapist is going to be the intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
So it is things like, we have children, but
I was about to say, define the intimacy challenges, because intimacy kind of has a broad spectrum.
yeah. Well, I am referring to physical intimacy. So
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes they are in the midst of, they've had their children, but they never really enjoyed the sexual chemistry between the two of them. Or I have worked with plenty of women who are going through that their entire married life. They've been together for 5, 10 years, and they're still inorgasmic. They just don't haven't experienced orgasms in a while. Plenty of guys who are on a variety of medications or other physical issues, where they're having performance issues. I worked with a gentleman not too long ago with,
Are performance issues likely brought on by the side effects of medications?
yes, nearly every single SSRI is going to have some type of negative side effect when it comes to sexual performance,
Mm-hmm.
libido, as well as erection, firmness, and things of that nature. So every single
On,
one of these things
on
are
both
on.
sides of the gender coin.
With libido, yes, the
Mm.
erection only for biological
Yes,
males,
I was
opposed to
talking about the libido
yeah,
portion.
yeah, the libido, for sure. But it's actually, one of the most common things that we deal with here. But we also have other issues. You mentioned low T earlier in the show, and that's a big issue. We also have, other hormonal changes that take place as we, just age,
Mm-hmm.
and for men and for women. And so, no matter who I'm working with, if we're talking about sexual intimacy, the first conversation we're going to have is, when was your last gynecological visit? When was your last urologist visit?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have those conversations to make sure that, at least on the physiological level, everything is working. But the biggest people that refer to my practice are the gynos and the urologist, because, they've done everything medically they can do. And this is where I found hypnosis to be an incredible, powerful tool for people, because now we're dealing with getting rid of the myths. Now we're doing some great education about, kind of how does the arousal process work for men and women, how they differ between men and women.
You
And
talked about that earlier. You're like, with the erection during a sexual encounter, it's like, okay, it's going to go up, and then it's going to take a break, and then it's going to go up and take a break. So on those times when it takes a break because of all the social stigma, I can only imagine a woman going, oh my God, it's not hard anymore. He's not
Yeah, both.
attracted to me. I'm ugly. I've got body issues. The insecurity
Mhm.
tsunami takes over. But
That's a common effect for men and women to kind of get into their heads around that, and
mhm,
that's one of the reasons why I say it's probably one of the number one myths that's out there. Because if you think about how Hollywood has portrayed this, how porn has
that needs
always
to be
portrayed
busted.
this,
Yeah.
this is it's always a rat, and that's how you're supposed to walk into the experience. That's how you're supposed to leave the experience, even, and it just isn't the case. And
Hmm.
there's so many of these myths out there, and that's just the number one that I try to communicate to men, but also to help women understand as well. Because you're right, Brian. A lot of women are going to internalize in a negative way how they're viewing what took place here, and sometimes it's not an issue at all. It's
So
not an issue at all.
going back, one of the things that really kind of hit home for me in terms of familiarity, um, again, the family law stuff, where people who have children, it wasn't uncommon for us to be like, our kids are getting ready to graduate high school. The being a parent, being the soccer mom, and running kids around, and they are the focus, they are our purpose for being. Well, now that the kids are shifting onto their own social lives and employment and things like that, you kind of like all of a sudden you wake up, you look at your partner, and you're like, I don't remember who the hell you are. And right now, I don't think that I like you. You've packed on
Mhm.
40 pounds because everything has been, if one partner goes to the other, hey, you thought about getting into the gym and kind of getting into shape. And then it's like, oh, you think I'm fat? I'm just ugly, Bob. And it turns into a fight without realizing somebody goes, hey, I care about your physical health because I want you to be around.
But first, I have to say that is a most devastating, nasty way to have that conversation, Brian, with
Hmm.
anyone
Yeah.
whatsoever. And so that is just another, we're just not going to do it that way. Um,
And granted, I'm paraphrasing for the sake of brevity.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, 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 yeah. But in my line of work, how we do things
mhm,
is actually just as important as what we're trying to accomplish. So timing and how we have those conversations, and again, empathy has to kind of rule the day in whatever conversation we're going to have. So if
mhm.
we cannot do it empathetically, um, that we're already behind the eight ball, if you will, to use an old expression. We're already going to be sabotaging it if we're not filled with empathy. But there's not going to be any conversation that's going to go down like that. I hope.
Right, right.
I
Like
hope for
like I said,
sure.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
saying, okay, here's sort of the
Mhm.
the the, the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
summary.
But
But
to your larger point, there are a lot of people who do struggle with now that they have been together for so long. Where is that chemistry? Who have I married? And again, that's more the
because
relationships.
they focused on the kids 100%, and they've neglected the relationship that's supposed, the glue that's supposed to be holding everything together.
um, and men can also oftentimes focus on their careers,
Mhm. Oh,
their
definitely, definitely.
extracurriculars, their friends. You mentioned two things. There's two things that I see a lot of guys just really being distracted by.
Well,
And
even like stay-at-home moms, they're like, God, I crave having a conversation with an adult that doesn't around nap time and potty.
there's two things that the guys really struggling with right now, and that's
Hmm.
porn and that's video games. And they're just consuming so much of their time there. And so it
Hmm.
used to be the guys, going out and hanging out with the guys. But to your point, these are things that they both, men and women, kind of wake up and say, in I'm speaking in a heterosexual normative type of format, but this could be your partner just kind of wakes up and is like, "Who are you? I don't know you anymore.
Well, and
Who
you
were
as the
we?"
individual are like, God, I miss my friends. I used to go hunting, fishing, I play golf, I whatever, and everything is kids, 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 kids. I'm losing a part of me. And then, the female half is like, God, I used to be, hanging out in girls' night and everything. And I don't get around my peers. These are and men and women. These are the people that I can ask the questions to. These are the people who can go, "Hey, man, like you totally screwed that up," or "I'm going through the same thing. Here's what I found. Here's somebody I can, refer you to this doc or whatever." It's you kind of, in a way, you become a codependent relationship where you've got this like kung fu grip on each other just for the sake of, I want that status of, we're not going to be a statistic, but you don't encourage your partner to maintain that balance. Spend time with kids, spend time with friends. We're going to spend time together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And without that, it's almost like all right, we've got to have this Mexican standoff where you're not going out, I'm not going out, neither one of us is going out, nobody can cheat. And then all of a sudden it's like, enter the internet.
And Brian, it does not have to be that way at all
No.
For our couples. And so we're looking at being able to build into the relationship personal independence and integrity. So to form a great couple,
integrity, that's the
to
beautiful
form a great couple, each individual has to be their autonomous self.
Mm-hmm.
Any other description of that does drift into dependency, where we see the anxious attachment come forward. We'll see suspicion come forward. We'll see these type of ways of interacting that is filled with mistrust as opposed to trust. And so oftentimes when I'm working with a couple, we're also working on the individual that is sitting in two different chairs. Even though they're both in my office, I'm saying to them, who are you as a person? And
Mm-hmm.
to the point of, as we change and as we age, we are constantly evolving as a person. So every once in a while, I encourage people, you got to get away from each other. You got to get away from each other completely to maintain who you are as an individual.
Because, I lost my father earlier this year, and, had a very successful life. And, while everything kind of came on suddenly, my stepmom afterwards was like, oh my God, even though my dad had all the, estate planning and this is what I want and things very organized, she's like, oh my God, like I'm missing my person. I'm like, yeah. I mean, obviously losing the love of your life, your best friend and your soulmate is a devastating thing. But if you can't function yourself, like there's a problem. And,
well,
grief
can take a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of us is going to grieve a little bit differently. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And
Lisa, it's a good time it's Monday. Lisa, it is always a pleasure to see you joining us. And yes, it is a sad fact that, how I described things earlier is how a lot of conversations take place. And while it provided me a lot of job security at the time, it was in an area of the law that I have an extreme distaste for. It's definitely not something that's palatable for me. And I prefer the hypnosis and even the personal injury stuff a lot more because, we're helping people solve problems. But before we continue, I want to remind everybody, throw in the hashtag hypnosis hero. So for those of the people who know the tic-tac-toe sign, the pound, whatever, hashtag hypnosis hero, all one word. That's going to come up with that's going to enter you into the drawing that we will have at the end of the episode. No purchase necessary, void or prohibited. Some restrictions apply. Satisfaction guaranteed. This is not a guarantee. So, Sean, should we...
you forgot all rights reserved.
Yeah, copyright and trademarks and hashtag Jim's pretty. So do we have a quick product spotlight that we can
Well,
throw up a link, or do you want to screen share?
yeah, give me 2 seconds here. I think the best thing that we can do is actually show people,
Yes.
in here, because it's coming up in Canadian. Okay, there we go.
So this is the prize for our drawing winner tonight. It will be an autographed copy by Jim, myself, potentially Captain Sean, if we can get the book through customs and in the mail up.
If you get
To
it,
him.
if you get it here, I can sign it. Just let me know how you'd like me to sign it, because I can. I do lots of signatures.
Sean, we just need to have a signature stamp for you prepared so we can just.
I see Amanda's here. She would appreciate like a Brian Mulrooney signature, for example. And for the rest of the people, that was our prime minister a great many years ago. So, okay, here we go. We are going to share.
Hopefully, the prime minister better than Trudeau.
Well, in my opinion. Look at that! Boom.
So if your life sucks, here's how to fix it. If your intimacy life sucks, go see Dr. Nick. I was actually holding the book over the weekend. We had to sign Tracy's book or Tracy's copy of the book for our winner last episode. Not a whole terrible lot of gravity to it, so definitely looking forward to it being a good read. Probably not a long one, which is going to be easy for the ADD folks to get through.
Well, and when you write a book like this, one of the things that you have to be cognizant of is, I get the title, Your Life Sucks, but people already know that. So what they are after is really, how is there an easy way that I can fix this? Not is there a way I can fix it? Is there an easy way I can fix this?
And you don't need 5 chapters to go, okay, this is how you got here of why your life sucks.
Exactly. I already know where I am. I need the roadmap out.
Exactly.
I need the next step up, the next step out. And so I think Jim has captured that in the book. It's not meant to be, okay, this is how you all got here, and then leave you there. Because there are a lot of books out there that actually do just that. So
we will have links in the comments, probably, hopefully in the description. Pre-release is coming out, if I remember correctly, and Jim, watch Jim's Facebook page and other Hypnosis Hero stuff for that. But yeah, we've got so Dr. Nick, please, thank you for indulging our little bit of a break, but kind of continue or pick up where you left off on the intimacy and how you're working with people. Or actually,
I appreciate that.
Do you have a memorable case, without using names, use a fake name to protect the innocent, that really stood out and really kind of touched you as like, okay, this was significant, where my work mattered?
Wow, Brian, I've had so many of those. We can talk about the elderly couple who one of them had a terminal diagnosis, and the other one gifted their spouse, who's only had a few months to live.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted a variety of different intimate experiences between the two of them before they passed, and they wanted a little guidance about how to do some of the things that they were describing. That one I remember deeply.
Now, was that within the confines of some medical or physical challenges, or was that just okay?
Yeah,
which makes sense.
Both.
Okay.
And so, just helping this loving couple, and one was about to leave this reality, and they said, we wanted to spend a couple of months, and here's some things that we always want to be able to do, and some of these things we don't know how, and so it was just showing people, just showing them, talking them through patiently about how to actually do their sexual bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
I reference, perhaps the proverbial wife who's had a career, had a job, had kids, but never experienced her own pleasure. On numerous occasions, just helping a person go through and experience what their body can experience in an orgasmic experience. I'm saying experience a lot, but able to just go through that experience with them
Mhm.
and helping them, guide them through that, through hypnosis, through education, through, just some practical tips and tricks and things of that nature, and then be able to share that with her husband. That was remarkable.
And to
I was
be able to
working
make
with a
some happy
college student.
memories too.
Absolutely. Well, working with a college student, and he had his girlfriend he wants to propose to, but he had this difficulty. He was only lasting about 15 to 20 seconds. Um, that's as far as he could last before he had an ejaculation or orgasmic experience. And so we call that, premature. And
Mhm.
so
Or we call
we,
her incredibly gifted.
well, we worked to help him kind of build up his stamina. And
Mhm.
so, a series of exercises and hypnotic experiences that gave him the ability to gain a little more awareness and control of what was going on in that part of his body. He literally went from 15 seconds when he walked in to seeing me. When we finished our working, he was able to last over 15 minutes. That's remarkable. I mean, that's just transformative to that young man's life.
And going back
So
to people's perspectives, a guy lasts 15 seconds and a woman's like, all right, that's like lighting a firecracker. All right, I didn't do anything for me. But flip the script. You have a guy that sends a woman into full orgasmic low Earth orbit, and all of a sudden he is a god if he can do that in 15 seconds. And then women will be like, the little baby on the dinosaurs TV shows, like, again, let's go.
yeah, I mean that is a different way that we can look at it, and it is a struggle sometimes
Mhm.
to look at these differences. But for him, for if it doesn't bother the couple, then it doesn't bother the couple. It doesn't bother the individual. It doesn't bother the individual. But
Mhm.
for him, that was a major thing for him to be able to overcome and to deal with. And so, yeah, those are some of my most memorable ones. But
I mean, granted,
um,
after 15 to 20 seconds, it's hard to go, oh my God, I am winded. I need to take a break and have a Gatorade and recharge. You know,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
15, 20 minutes of some vigorous activity, that excuse flies.
That excuse flies. But I'm afraid for him, it wasn't anything like that. It was just embarrassment.
Oh,
It
for
was
sure.
feeling shame, feeling less than. And, but, just because, this is a big part of who we are as people, how we bring ourselves into that most vulnerable, intimate moment with someone. And so, absolutely, it
Well, I
can
mean,
be very difficult.
even in the sexual act, you're like, okay, I want to experience that, happy feeling and in places. And then when you're like, okay, all right, I stroke in, out, well, all right, and I'm spent. It's not really a whole lot of fun to be spread around, so to speak.
No, not at all. Not at all. But again, where the mind goes, the body is going to follow. And
Hmm.
so the mind has an incredible power over, being able to actually help regulate and help that whole arousal and ejaculation system. And so it was just a game changer when we brought hypnosis into it.
Hmm. No, that's amazing. And I mean, if nothing else, you take a young man who's you're taking that confidence and you're elevating
Yeah.
it. You're enhancing the quality of his life
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
the girlfriend's or fiance's wife, hopefully.
Hmm. Yeah.
With any luck, they're married and still married now.
Well, that was a couple years ago. I understand. Right outside my office is a major wedding venue for our city,
Hmm.
and I think I saw that their wedding is coming up, but that was a couple years ago now. But I hope
You
they do.
should be getting an invitation and
No,
probably a groomsman for what you
no,
did.
no, no, no. In my community, it works a little bit different from that. You know, it's, do you know Dr. Nick? No, I don't know Dr. Nick. But yeah, a lot of people know me.
No, I
But they
remember.
don't.
I remember a counselor that I saw a number of years ago. Working through some things in the military, and he flat out told me, he was like, "Here's kind of my ground rules, like client, doctor patient confidentiality and privilege and everything." He's like, if I'm up around where you live, or I run into you at the
Yeah.
gas station or your grocery store or something like that, he's like,
Don't even know
please
you.
don't think I'm being rude if I pretend that you don't exist. If I walk by you and glance up, make eye contact with you, and just head down and go, he goes, now if you come up to me and initiate conversation, hi, how are you doing? How is everything?
Yeah.
I'm going to be friendly as can be, but he goes, that's just, I don't want to put you in any sort of position where you feel like you have to, explain yourself or, cause any undue embarrassment and whatnot. So no, that definitely makes sense. You should be like,
Yep.
I'm long lost Uncle Nick, twice removed, and, carry the exponent, and I'm not a math
No.
major. So, but
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with it.
A second cousin.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's so how did you kind of hone in, if you will, poor choice of words, on the sex therapy and things like that?
Well, I've been doing relationship work for such a long time. And so sex and intimacy was always part of the conversation at some point or another with every couple we talk to, you talk with. But again, I have a really comfortable place within myself to be able to talk about it. And so I can walk into any building, any meeting, anyone, and we can talk about this stuff openly. And it's always been the case. Whatever supposed to be in a person to feel weirded out about this, I didn't get that gene. It's just not me. I'm very comfortable with it. And so
Well,
when you
it sounds
ask,
like a lot of sex and intimacy is kind of one of the, if it's not the innermost ring, one of the inner rings to kind of the central hub of a relationship.
it's one of the most important aspects of a relationship. Yes, and that's for some couples. Not every couple feels that way. Intimacy is quite broad, as you observed earlier. And so, when we're talking about sex, that's just one of the things I'm easily able to focus on. And I just felt that very comfortable to be able to do that. And there's no one in our area who's doing it. And so it's just like, yeah, this is what I need to do. It felt almost calling like, And so
Now, normally in another conversation with another guest, I would be like, here, I'm going to plug you real fast. But in this conversation, that's a poor choice of words. So I want to share for anybody who might be interested in working therapeutically and professionally with Dr. Nick. Website is Nick with a C, Natalie.com/working together, all one word. Go visit his website. He's on the Google and everything like that. And if we can we can assist you in helping at least one more person. More than likely, it's going to be one is going to be two. We're doing our job and fulfilling our purpose of the show, which is bringing people together.
Well, I really appreciate that. One disclaimer I have to make on whenever we do talk about this stuff. As a therapist, I am licensed to practice in the state of South Carolina. When I'm working with people from around the country or even internationally, I do so not as a therapist, but as a consultant. And so a personal consultant. And so, I work with people in LA, I work with people in Mexico, a couple in Canada, but it's always as a consultant if you're not in my state. As a consultant, I do not do any diagnosing, treatment plans, or anything of that psychological, health-related nature. That's just not the type of service that I provide. As a consultant, I consult with a person, help with exercises, things of that nature. Some hypnosis is a part of that as well, of course.
So kind of the verbiage I expect would be a little bit different. Like you might find that if you try this may be a result.
Well, if I'm in my office and we're dealing with manic depressive individual and we're talking about their sexual issues, we can actually talk about all those things together. But if I'm
Right.
working as a consultant with somebody in another state, they have to have a different therapist to address their bipolar, cycles and things of that nature. And so that's just
Mhm.
kind of how we have to do it. So, but at my website, nicknatali.com, or you can follow me on Instagram, Dr. Nick Natali, and you'll see a lot of different ways that we can connect together.
Awesome. Now, we were talking before. You said that you used to be licensed in Washington State, or you
Yeah,
still are?
it used to be
Used to be.
absolutely.
Okay. I wanted to get that clarification,
Hmm.
and because I think that's the responsible thing instead of being like, yeah,
Hmm.
you're licensed in Washington too. And you're like,
No,
no.
no.
But no, that was no. Now, when you were licensed in Washington, was that on the therapist mental health side,
Mhm.
or was that the hypnotherapist?
I wasn't doing hypnosis at that time. That was just simply, I forgot what they call it. It may be a mental health professional or something like that.
I
I
think
don't
they
remember
call
what the
that
license is.
LMH, like licensed mental
Yeah.
health professional. It's like you've got a master's in
Hmm.
something, and um, go through all the state uh, licensing protocols. But
Right.
uh, do you find yourself working with a lot of veterans or even first responders as
I
opposed to
do. I
other
do.
professions?
No, not as a primary. I do a lot of veterans and first responders who come into my office. But most of the time, there are veterans who have been part of the officer corps or something of that nature. But most of my individuals I work with are, you know, they're business owners, they're professionals in their degree, and oftentimes when they're introduced to my work, it's really because of no one wants to come see a sex therapist, so they have already rode the train of trying everything else. They've been to Google, ChatGPT, that shit. They read every single book, and now they're wanting to talk to a therapist, and because nothing else has worked, and so I'm in that spot. But usually, by the time I get their message the first time on my website, they tried everything else. It's just naturally is the way we're going to do it, right? And especially if it's a guy reaching out to me. And so by the time they get to me, they're ready for something. They're ready for change.
Which, God, again, my inner 12-year-old is just kicking me right now, going, it's really nice to have a warm lead. But uh, no, I mean, it's, I think anytime that you're engaging professionally with somebody, that them having the motivation, like, okay, I want to move forward with this, there's probably less. I mean, it's more answering questions of how are we going to best work together and things like that, rather than trying to convince them to accept your help. And you can
Oh
only help
no, no, no,
people that
no.
are
Yeah.
willing to accept it. But
No.
of the when you get your clientele, how much of a do you find that people's work life balance, from here's my professional identity to my relationship identity to my individual autonomy, that is just completely out of whack? And I asked because you said, hey,
Yeah.
I deal with the
Most
officer
people.
corps, I've got business
Most.
owners. Yeah.
Most. I have if you can imagine a husband and wife team who own their own business, and they're
Hmm.
working together consistently every single day. And one of those two is making the shots in that business every single day, and the other person is trying to follow.
Hmm.
Imagine what it's like then to go home and try to do life together. And so, I work with them almost weekly, trying to figure out, how do we, keep the importance of what this relationship is and keep the focus on that. And
And
so
you see
as they try to,
people with kids, it's like, all right, here, you grab Johnny from soccer practice. I got to get Timmy from
that's everyday life,
gymnastics.
man.
All
Yep,
right, we get
everyday
home,
life.
huddle, shower, dinners, off to bed. All right, okay, we got a quick 5-minute roll in the hay. I've got to sleep. And it's like there's no enjoyment there.
No, there's
Everything
not.
seems to be so transactional and scheduled and forced, and there's no
Mhm.
time for spontaneity.
And that's why we do a whole lot of work to help them kind of understand the rhythm of their life and what intimacy would look like realistically and fulfillingly in that rhythm of that life. And so everybody's life is going to be a little bit different. And so you're doing that during the school year. The expectation that we're going to do sex 4 nights out a week, you're setting yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
Plan for something on the weekend, maybe.
Right.
Um, you know, and that's the stage where we're at right now. And so
Or
that's
or take 10-15 minutes. Like, okay, the kids are going to bed, and if you're just going to lay there in bed for a couple minutes, reading or whatever, it's like, look, take that time to feel close to one another and have that connection.
I want that. I want them to be able to connect with each other first on an emotional level and a physical level. And so oftentimes we'll talk about how to do that, and it's different from men and women. And
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't sour the grapes, if you will, and it doesn't become something obligatory for oftentimes her to fulfill. We have to take into consideration that we can't have that expectation. We can't have that expectation.
Now, statistically speaking, I'm going to shift gears here. I
Okay,
can't be
man.
I can't be the only person who has got these questions, but we're going to go into like Mythbusters right now, because what are some of the myths that you've heard that is a sex therapist? I can only imagine it's, oh, you've got, a female sex therapist. Oh, you're Svetlana. You wear the knee-high boots and flying dildos and this, that, and the other. And how do we teach people to swing from the chandeliers and mount the handlebars on the headboard and all that other weird stuff? What are some of the myths that you've heard from people going, am I going to have to really get naked in front of you, or any silly stuff like that?
I think that's the stuff of TV and all that kind of stuff. Is kind of fun, but I don't think anybody really expects that. In the
Mm-hmm.
type of work that I do, there are somatic workers that will may involve touch in some form or another. But it's actually pretty clear, even in my paperwork, that there's no touch involved in that whatsoever. And
Mm-hmm.
so, those type of things, when it comes to about what does a sex therapist actually do, um, you know, touch is not part of that. It usually really doesn't come up. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I guess I've had the occasional person just kind of ask me, you know, um, you know, do you want us to videotape anything? And we're like, no, I don't want
You're
you
like,
to
I don't
videotape
want to see you
anything.
naked.
No, no need. But that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of probably the only one that's ever really surfaced with any type of regularity. Is like, well, how do we report what we're doing? And I'm thinking, I think we have something of a voyeur fetish going on here. No one's interested in seeing you. Don't need that whatsoever. So I would choose to tell people,
Scott's asking, "What,
no.
Brian? Why are you bringing up my headboard?" And I'm like, Scott, I have questions that I don't know that I want the answers to. Uh,
I never yuck somebody else's yum, man. We don't
mhm.
do that. And so,
Yeah, it's no, I could only imagine, just with the stuff that's out there on the internet. You combine that with Urban Dictionary, and I'm like, I can only imagine the stuff that you've heard, because the
mhm.
things that I've heard as far as myths and everything go, surrounding hypnosis, it's
Oh yeah,
crazy.
yeah. And we're in a religious part of the country here, very fundamental. And so I regularly will have to explain, even as a formal minister, this is not opening your life up to the devil. This isn't trying to, do any type of mind control, all those kind of
Hmm.
normal things. This is similar but different than meditation. So I usually go the science route, and that usually calms things down a little bit. But we have a lot more superstition around the use of hypnosis now you would think about sex therapy in terms of what the therapist actually does. Now, there's a lot of myths that people operate off of on a regular basis. They've heard from the locker room, they learn from porn, they learn from TV, that's going through their heads. And
Hmm.
again, that's part of the work that we do, is kind of dispel and correct. A lot of what I do is pure education. You know, it,
Yeah,
this is
it sounds like, if I could succinctly describe what you do, it sounds like you clear out and silence a lot of that mental noise that
Well, definitely want to teach people.
clouds people's thoughts, and you, in a way, you teach them to kind of get the hell out of their own way.
The body is going to want to do what the body is going to want to do. And Masters and Johnson, two researchers in the 1960s, who were probably the most preeminent researchers in sexology that we have, they discovered a long time ago that it is the mind who is actually oftentimes determining whether or not there's going to be a physiological response of arousal or not. And that's true for men and for women. How you do that is different between men and women, very different. But the mind does play a significant role here. But what the body wants to do, how the body wants to respond, whether that's allowing blood flow and lubrication to form or blood flow for an erection and all the other erogenous zones that will light up, if you will, when you're becoming aroused, the body wants to respond. It's what goes on in our own minds that will actually impede it more than anything else. That's why the doctors, the MDs, are the ones who are my biggest referral sources. There's nothing wrong physiologically. This is relationally. This is something that's going on internally within that has to be worked out.
No, so now we've got a question here from the YouTube handle Healing Beyond Trauma. She says, not sure how true. Who?
Amanda.
Okay. Yeah. Not sure how true the TV series was on Masters and Johnson, but she says it was a great and fascinating show. If you wanted to kind of briefly expand upon that.
Endorse it 100%. That's a great documentary. And they did this lot of seminal work. There also was the foundation for sensei focus exercises. All the touch exercises that we would use, they were all formed by Masters and Johnson, which almost everything that we do still today is based on their work years ago now. Yeah.
No, awesome. And
hi, Amanda.
And Dr. Nick, warning everybody, pun incoming. I could keep going all night.
Yeah.
But wanted to give you the opportunity. So first, I'm going to ask a question, and I want you to hold off until after you do the hypnosis to give an answer. Because I want to give everybody a chance to comment on what they think. So the question that is going to be the subject to determine if you are a friend or a frenemy. This is from Jim, not me. Is pineapple, or I'm sorry, true or false? Pineapple is acceptable on pizza.
Oh, hell no. What is this?
So much for saving it till the end. Oh, you prematurely answered.
You can't put pineapple on a pizza. What is that?
So
somebody Italian if pineapple goes on pizza? No.
Ooh.
Oh, you blew the surprise.
You can put cantaloupe on a pizza. Now that's delicious. Mozzarella, cantaloupe.
I would hope that mozzarella is supposed to go on pizza. So, yeah, I think that after you're done with your hypnosis,
because Amanda says, "Gasp, Nick."
Maybe
Becca's going to say eventually when her when she said it, correct answer in capital letters, even like she's yelling it from across the pond.
What if and I'm just supposing here. What if Amanda had the gasp and Nick on how amazing she is and how effective and everything else? Because I like my answer better.
Amanda is an amazing person. She's an amazing individual. And I think she's friend to the entire world. And so, man, everybody loves Amanda.
And also Canadian.
Oh, and yeah, absolutely.
So,
Scott
says, "Don't yuck anyone's yum."
and don't yum in anybody's yuck. But So anyway, before we get started, Nick, Captain, if you want to throw the disclaimer up there, running across the
Yes.
bottom, I will verbally give it. So before we get started with Dr. Nick's hypnosis demonstration, make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you're out of range of anything that could hurt you. Do not be driving. Do not be operating heavy machinery. Do not be performing surgery right now, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we want you to be safe. If you slump over and go out and conk yourself, we are not going to know about it. We can't respond. We can't help you. So please lay back, be comfortable, all that stuff, and get ready to rock. So, Dr. Nick, the internet is yours.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Listen, this has been really good tonight. The thing I would love to do about hypnotic experience is actually just kind of lean into the fact that this is something relatively new to me. I am by no means the masters I usually hang out with when it comes to hypnosis. I want to use actually two different, very simple, very well-known techniques that I use and to adapt for people who are looking and wanting to deal with what it means to address the mind-body connection. So we're actually going to tonight use two very common tropes, if you will, to elicit hypnotic experience for you. Now, I'm really doing this because I got a lot of my friends out here, and I need you to be able to see and understand exactly what I may want to do, because I'm not a stage hypnotist or a street performer or anything of this nature. I'm building a relationship with a client, and I may actually do a number of hypnotic experiences with them. And so I'm not the kind of one-off guy. We actually may spend, 5 or 6, 7 hypnotic sessions together working on their issues. And so what I want to do tonight, just to kind of give you something, an example of, I'm going to use very something called the magnetic fingers to actually show you a connection that we can do to connect the mind and body to that experience. So we're going to emphasize something that's not usually emphasized when you're learning how to do this induction. So we're going to do magnetic fingers with a different emphasis. And then I'm going to go in from there, and we're actually going to do a hypnotic phenomenon around the simple lemon. And this diagnostic feature tells me so much of what I need to know as I'm going to be working with someone long term, at least 4 or 5, 6, maybe more sessions together. So we're going to do these two things together, okay? So what I want to do is invite you to take a moment and go ahead and lace your fingers together, just like you've learned to do, and allow your index fingers to rise to the top. Now, I want you to be able to do this function because I'm actually wanting you to hold your fingers apart. Now, I want you to actually feel the tension that is there in your fingers. And as you begin to feel the tension in your fingers, I want you to begin to stare at that space in between. Just being able to focus on the space in between your fingers. And what you'll begin to find that your fingers naturally want to come together just like your body wants to respond and to relieve tension in your body. So when you begin to feel, that's it, allow your fingers to begin to come together. I want you to imagine that your entire body is beginning to release its own tension. In just a moment, your fingers do touch together. There's no pretense about this. Allow your fingers to come together. You're going to simply close your eyes and go into a hypnotic experience yourself. There you go. And when they come together, allow those hands to simply fall into your lap and continue to focus on my voice as you allow yourself to go into the space in between. You know what it's like to go into space in between. That in between space that you go into right before you fall asleep and right when you wake up. Is there someplace in between sleep and being awake? And go there now. Allow yourself to begin to simply relax. Start at the top of your head, and with each breath, begin to relax a different part of your body. You can begin with your crown, Allow your eyes to remain closed and allowing yourself to simply be in this space, to release, to surrender into that space, the space in between, where you're going to first relax your body as you also begin to relax your mind. The body will relax and then the mind will relax. That's it. As you continue to focus on the sound of my voice, you can allow different parts of your body to begin to relax. With your eyes closed, your eyes want to remain closed because your body naturally would like your eyes to be closed right now. Allowing your body to respond the way it wants to allow your eyes simply to be. And even if you tried to open your eyes, you will find that you couldn't open your eyes because your eyes actually desire over the next few moments to remain closed for you. Be still and know your body and your mind. That's it. Be still and know your mind. Very good. Be still and know. Wonderful. Allowing yourself to relax even more, to go deeper now, deeper into hypnosis. That space in between, to be still. Allow yourself simply to be, because no one was wanting anything of you. No one is wanting anything from you. Simply be. Very good. Over the next few moments, I'm going to invite you to use your very powerful imagination. Your imagination is that part of you, some people call the third eye. It's that part of you that actually begins to think and to wonder what life could be like. Now, I invite for you to open your mind's eye and see a simple lemon, brightly colored yellow. There you go. Healthy, plump, oval shape. See the lemon in your mind's eye. Allow that lemon to be a part of what you're holding in your hand right now. See yourself holding the lemon. Beautiful. Very good. Now allow yourself to see yourself in a safe place. Perhaps that's in your own living room or your bedroom. It could be even you holding the lemon on a beach or on top of a mountain, a secluded cabin. Give yourself a moment to coalesce in your own mind and your own imagination the ability to see yourself in your safe place holding that lemon. Wonderful. Allow that picture to form in your mind. See where you are holding the lemon in your hand. Now I invite you to take this further. Using your imagination, see yourself cutting the lemon. You're cutting the lemon and you can actually feel the juices of the lemon. Feel the juices of your lemon in your mind and on your hand. Feel that juice now. Wonderful. I invite you to take a piece of that lemon and bring it up to your mouth. Taste that lemon. Taste that lemon so you can begin to actually feel what it's like to taste it. Allow your body to respond as you taste that lemon. Very good. That's wonderful. Allow yourself to see yourself in your safe place, holding the lemon, tasting the lemon, and allow your body to respond when you taste the lemon. That's wonderful. You are doing perfectly. In this particular place where you are right now, I want you to remember it because you're going to be able to go back to it anytime you need to. When you need a moment to recover, or when we begin to explore things using your imagination, we'll even start off right here at this place. Take a moment to look around. Feel yourself there. In just a few moments, I'm going to pull you away from this place. We'll come back into the waking world, leaving that space in between. You'll be back in the room with us. When I count to 5, you'll be back in the room with us. 1, 2, remembering what took place, remembering your safe place. 3, and 4, and 5. Simply come back in your room, open your eyes, and come back into the room. Very good. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that time with me. Now, guys, when I do this with clients, it's almost diagnostic. Because at this point, I really want to be able to know what I'm dealing with. And so what you just saw is I'm delivering a couple of different messages. First, when it comes to the finger madness, usually when we're taught this in simple test or suggestibility test or whatever, we almost want to fool them into not realizing this is actually an automatic response to allow the fingers to come together. I'm actually embracing that and saying, I want the body to respond. Because the body, as you've heard me say repeatedly tonight, the body actually does want to respond. So
Well, it's also one of those things that I see is if they're relaxing a little bit and their fingers are coming together, it means they are relaxing. They're not fighting it.
Absolutely.
Which means they're likely not going to fight you on the suggestions.
I want them to kind of hear me be able to emphasize that this is what the body wants to do. Because that is going to be important, and no matter what other intimate sexual performance issue we will be dealing with, that's an important step. And of course, I'm dealing with people through a therapy perspective of hypnotherapy. So I really need to know if they're going to be able to see images versus we're going to be able to work through the knowledge. I'm going to do a lot of visualizations with a person if they're able to use their imagination in the way they're able to see themselves in the lemon. We establish a safe place for them. All that's kind of diagnostic for me to be able to use. And so what I did for the audience tonight is something very simple that I will even do almost after a pre-talk, because I want to see them like next week or in a couple of days, and we're going to begin to work. But that's the initial experience for me, because I laid down some messages I need them to get. And so, yeah, there you go.
No, Becca says that she felt her mouth water, and when she was imagining tasting the lemon.
Of course, yes.
Which is pretty awesome. And anybody else, feel free to share in the comments. What was your experience like with that hypnosis?
Yeah. That is exactly what we're saying. Is exactly like this. Allow it to happen. When we see that that person can see themselves, because I want to ask them, were you able to visualize yourself? You're able to see yourself? Were you able to taste the lemon? And I get a couple of those. You're able to get your safe place. You can see yourself and you can taste the lemon. Oh, dudes, we are to the moon with hypnosis at that point. We got everything we need. And so, and I have to change up if those things are not true. I just have to use, you're in a safe place. That's different than you see yourself in a safe place from a therapeutic perspective. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Amanda says she's highly visual, which I am as well, and she really enjoyed the rich imagery that you provided.
Wonderful.
Which listening along and kind of following with the comments and all the other admin stuff.
Yeah,
I can tell where she's coming from.
Absolutely, yeah. But I use that. I use it, twice today. Just kind of helping people have something of a beginning of an experience. And once they feel their fingers come together, once they actually had the experience of tasting lemons, oh, everything else I'm saying about the mind, the way the mind goes, the body is going to follow, is 100%.
Yeah, Janaea, again, welcome. She said that she was able to taste the lemons strongly, and also the description. Really enjoyed the description of the space in between.
Yeah, that's what I call it, space in between.
So
That's actually that's actually going to be the title of my next book if I don't have anybody to steal it between now and then.
Quick trademark it.
Space in between. I'm sure someone else has already done that, but
you heard it here first, folks. We're gonna date timestamp the show, yeah, Jim's kind of given us the last call, so it's the drawing time, and we've already had some kind of sidebar conversation that Dr. Nick, I know that you have got, like, we have just scratched the surface. This is the tip of the iceberg, just the tip, and only for a minute. There's so much more that you can, the wisdom that you can impart upon us. And I'm definitely looking forward to having you on the show again.
Well, thank you guys.
Preferably with Jim this time. But with that,
technical difficulties, we can leave those behind.
Oh yeah, the technical electric pixies and the ones and zeros had a little too much happy hour at the bar. But yeah, Captain Sean, do you want to do the drum roll and the drawing? We're gonna close out everybody get your last call for hashtag Hypnosis Hero, all one word, in the comments. And Jim, you were not supposed to be driving and listening to this hypnosis stuff.
Jim's not.
I hope that you made it to your destination safely.
All right. Now, can I do both of these at the same? You may have to do the drum roll there, Brian.
Oh, I don't have a drum roll. I don't have a soundboard. Yeah.
All right.
Hypnotic drum roll, please. Survey says.
All right, here we go. My raffle.
So, Jim, I hope you heard the good news earlier. Nick is a friend, not a frenemy.
Jim wins. That means, Brian, you and I get to sign the book.
All right, I demand a recount.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to do that one more time. Let's try it again.
And because we had to put out there all the hashtag Hypnosis Hero and give people the instruction, winning twice in a row. Okay, so the more times you enter, the higher.
Is this like Black 17?
And then what was it? 6 was what Mr. Grant Saunders called in.
Woohoo!
Come on, we need real winners this time. The fourth time is a... Okay, so we got 2 Jims, 2 Seans. I have abstained.
It's gonna be me again.
Got 3 times in a row.
That's what happens. I think I've probably put it in the most, but let's see.
Come on, everybody get in there. 4 times in a row.
If you sit beside me at a table, I can almost guarantee you're going to win a prize. So
I'm about to take you to Vegas, man.
I was going to say this is not a guarantee.
Okay.
January, when we're in Vegas, you have to play. Was it Black 17?
Yep.
Was our customary.
Even if I go by commenter, it's all Jim.
Can we filter us out of it?
I wish we could. There we go.
Lisa. All right, that'll do. Lisa,
Wonderful.
Congratulations. Autograph book coming your way. And
come back. There we go.
So, yeah. Sean, do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, I was kind of we got to have Nick on again here because there are so many other directions that we didn't get to. Some of the myths surrounding pornography and how that affects brain development and then relationship development. And for those of us that have been through a divorce or a significant breakup, reconstructing identity. Because that's been my journey for about 3 years now, is simply just picking up the pieces and reconstructing who I used to be before the relationship, and then who I want to be after the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a lot more to it than just rage hitting the gym.
That's true, because that's expensive.
I think it seems like all three of us have been through the significant changes in life. I'm also divorced and remarried, and in a wonderful relationship. And so,
Brave enough to do it again.
oh, absolutely, I believe 100% in it. I think it's the best form of ourselves is when someone knows us that deeply. Um, but the challenges are real, and we have to kind of make it work. But Sean, to your point about we have to find our identity again. That is a huge point to this. And when you're ready to start writing those chapters down in the book, you and I are going to write a fantastic book together on that one piece.
Yep.
Because I'm telling you,
Is that the
that's a good.
space in between, or is that the between space in between?
I think that is necessary. Um,
No, it 100%.
yeah.
Like knowing who you are. GI Joe. Let's go back to the '80s here. Knowing is half the battle, but knowing
Mm,
who you are allows you to have a center to act from. And if you don't
yes.
know who you are, you have no center, and you have no core, and it becomes very difficult to even think about taking a step outside your I don't want to use comfort zone because that's cliche, but it becomes very difficult for you to take that next step forward.
Yeah. It really does. And again, how do we learn to trust again? How do we learn to love again?
Yeah.
How do we learn to be faithful again? How do we learn for my
What
case, for example, learn to parent a stepchild? Um, is completely different. I raised two sons, and now I'm raising a daughter who is 13 years
Well,
old.
yeah, that would be
Um,
very different.
That's
Because
a
I
different
have two
thing.
boys, and they're just now 27 and 21, starting to turn a corner into adulthood that I think has them on a
Yeah,
uh, good path forward. And that's been, especially with the 27-year-old. Oh, it's been kind of a rockier journey for him than it has for the younger one. So,
yeah.
uh, and when you see that as a parent, that's completely different. And now, when you're the step parent, and
Hmm.
it's not the same boys that you raise, it's now somebody who's completely the opposite.
Yeah,
And
and
just
you're not the dad.
yeah,
I'm not the dad in the house.
yeah,
I'm the stepfather in the house,
yeah,
and so
Yeah, and
oftentimes
you
I
have to
defer
differentiate.
to I
You go.
defer
You
to the
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I defer to their to her father on what shows we're going to watch,
yeah.
what music we're going to listen to. It's a completely different experience, but it's one that I would not trade for anything in the world. Yeah.
We
I'm
have
very optimistic about relationships. I believe in them. And so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, my boys they've decided the last time we were all out was to watch the younger ones benefit concert before they went on tour, and both of them tried to set me up with some ladies at the bar, and turned out that they were also fellow school division employees. So,
Oh,
Like, are there rules against that, or
not technically, but at least
frowned
one of them
upon, or
at least one of them is young enough to be a student in the high school when I started way back when.
but they're not a student at the high school
No,
anymore?
but she is married, so
Oh, there could be a significant challenge there. I mean, not everybody is into that type of stuff, but no, I mean, it's like, so you haven't put in your application for the Canadian Bachelor? Like, for all the ladies who are tired of farm flannel and ready for an adventure into the next
An
frontier.
adventure into the bits and bytes of the tech universe.
Exactly.
Guys, it's a pleasure to be with you.
All we're going to say about that, because Brian is as exciting as you make it sound. I tend to be the workaholic right now. I'm still catching up to where I need to be.
And Nick, you said that with conviction and with a straight face. I commend you, sir. So, no, everybody, we've been going at it here for well over a couple hours, longer than 15 seconds and longer than 20 minutes. I think we're all about spent. But no, in all seriousness, Nick, you do great work. Super interesting hearing your story and what you do, just serving your purpose. And so
can't imagine doing anything else. So
yeah. So
thank you.
this is going to be, Jim, you missed out, man. Hope you were listening, and no, we're definitely going to arrange to have you come back and join us if we can twist your arm and we have not scared you off. But there's
let's do it, my friend. Let's do it. Let's do it anytime.
Yeah.
This is something, as you can tell, that I am passionate and able to talk about. I'd love to do it anytime.
Yeah, this is, I mean, like Sean was saying, there's so many different branches and areas to break off and everything like that. So it's, like I said, it's such a pleasure to have you on. We're honored that you took the time and look forward to it again. So with that, I think we're going to sign off. I'm going to tell everybody, what does Jim say? Something about being awesome.
Hey, hang on. We got one more quick announcement. And that's
yes.
Next time, which is the second Monday of September. That will be Mr. Dan Goyette.
Oh, another Canadian. No, he's Michigan. He's right?
Michigan.
Yep, that's right.
Oh, a fellow Scotsman, yes.
Okay.
We're not wearing our kilts. Sorry. How's that for Canadian? Sorry.
I was going to say, with these broadcasts, we got to be
No,
from like
it's all
the
good. But as Brian, as Jim would say, take care, be well, be awesome,
and stay free, everybody. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much, Dr. Nick.
Good night.
Have a great evening, guys.